Hey, how's it going guys? My name's Tommy and I'm part of the Laurier Photography Club, and today I'll be showing how to bring out the colors in your sky in Lightroom. Alright, so first off, when analyzing this picture, we can see that there's a bit of red over here and some orange and yellow, which is good, right? Because we can actually intensify those colors in Lightroom. We can also see that there's some green over here, but there's obviously some shadows which makes it really dark. However, we don't have to worry too much about the grass because we can fix it in Lightroom. Alright, so for our first task, we want to actually increase the exposure on the grass over here. And we can actually do that by using the exposure tool on the side over here and increasing it. However, when we increase it, not only does the grass gets brighter, but the sky becomes much more wider, which we don't want. So what we actually have to do is just come down here to the shadows tool, which affects the detail in the darker areas. And what we have to do is actually just bring it up. So as you can see, the grass is getting lighter, but at the same time it's not affecting the sky, which is good. So maybe about 40 would be pretty good, right here. Alright, so before we do anything else, we could actually make a small edit to the red and orange and yellow area by actually messing around with the saturation tool. So what it does is actually increase the intensity of the color. So we can actually just increase, you can see how if you drag it down, it just becomes dull and gray. However, if you increase it, it becomes much more colorful. So this looks way too unrealistic. So what we can do is just drag it a bit down until we find a point where it looks realistic. So something over here. So once again, if you drag it down, it becomes gray. However, if you drag it up, it becomes much more realistic and colorful, right? So we just have to do the same thing again and just drag it to the point where it looks realistic. So something like this over here. And we can also bring up the clarity. So clarity just puts detail into the photo, and if you just put too much like this, it becomes too unrealistic. However, if we just drag it like this, everything becomes blurry. So somewhere, I usually in my photos I use somewhere between 20 to 50, depending on the type of photo I'm editing and how I shot it. So in this case, we can just drag it up and just see. So 70 is too much, and somewhere around 30 would be good. Something like this would be pretty good. Alright, so for our next step of the tutorial, we'll be using the tone curve. What the tone curve will do is manipulate the exposure and the amount of light and tone in the image. So since we have a bit of red going on over here, what we have to do is just come down to channel and just select our GMB and change it to red. So usually I would just create 1, 2, and 3 points. So what this bottom dot will do is actually change the shadows of the image. If we drag down, we can see that the red colors in the grass is actually being taken out and the grass is becoming more green. However, if we raise it, the grass will become much more red. So we don't want that, so we'll just start over and just leave it like that. So for this next part, we'll be using the dot up here. What this dot will do is actually manipulate the highlight in the sky. So if we lower it, the sky becomes blue. However, if we raise it, the sky becomes much more red. So something like this is unrealistic, so we just have to drag it down to something like this, I would say. If we also want some blue in this part of the sky, we could also come down here to blue. And again, just make your 3 dots and just drag it a bit up so that you can see the sky is becoming blue and purplish over here. And this is for you guys to see. If I drag it down, the sky becomes yellow. So something like this will help. Alright, so you can see that this is already an improvement from the original photo, as there's much more color in the sky. Alright, so if you want to see the difference without the tone curve, all you do is come over here to this racer looking shape and just turn it off. And you can see that there's some slight adjustment. You see that how it's light bluish over here and blue over here. However, with this selected, the sky becomes much more red over here and pinkish and purplish up here. Alright, so for the next part of the tutorial, we'll be using the HSL tool, which stands for Hue, Saturation, and Luminance. So if you want to put more red back in the sky over here, we can actually do this by dragging the red tool down over here to 100. And you can already see that there's a line of red over here, and you can see it gradually just fades out. So this is way too much red, so we could actually just increase the tool until we see where it best fits. So something like this would probably be good. So I'll just go ahead and play around with these settings. So you can see that this is way too unrealistic, as you can see the clouds are just look out of place over here with the red sky. So what we have to do is just increase orange until there's like a nice like mix, like something like that. And we can also change the yellow. So if you increase it, the yellow, you can see this part becomes yellow, and if we decrease it, it becomes orange. So I guess keeping it at 0 would be good. So if we want to put more colors back into the grass, we can actually do that by increasing the green tool. So if I increase it to 100, it becomes way too green. So we just have to like decrease it to the point where it just looks realistic. So something like this, or maybe even 30 actually. Yeah. So the next color we'll be messing around with is aqua. So if I were to increase aqua, it will actually change the sky to this purple bluish color. If I were to decrease it, you can see how the sky becomes blue and greenish. You can also see the changes over here. So if I were to put it back to 0 and decrease it, you can see that the tips of the grass will become greener. So this is what I mean. You can see that becomes greener. However, if I were to raise it to 100, you can see that the tips of the grass will become browner. So you can see the changes like that. Now in this case, I don't really want aqua to be 100 because I don't really like that purplish blue sky up here in this corner. I kind of want that light bluish color back in the sky over here. So for the next color, it's blue. So if I were to increase blue, you can see that the sky becomes pink and like purple over here. And if I were to decrease it, the sky will become like, get this like green teal color. So we won't be really changing it too much unless you want this orange and teal color. So we'll just put it back to 0. Alright, so for the next two colors, purple and magenta, usually it doesn't really affect like my photos, but in this case, since we have a bit of purple going, I would probably just decrease it a bit so it gets that nice little fade off over here. So something like this. I won't be changing the saturation, the luminance portion, because I think what we have over here is pretty good. If I were to like decrease and change it, you could already see like it's just way too much. Alright, so for the next tool we'll be using is called split toning. What split toning will do is actually add a different color to the shadow and highlights of the image. So we just come down here, and if we let's just say put it up to blue, you can see how the sky just becomes much more blue. And the same thing with like red, which becomes pink, and orange over here, which you can see. Alright, so for the next tool we'll be using Lightroom is called split toning. What split toning will do is add a different color to the shadows and highlights of the image. So I like the red that we have going on over here, however I want to put some more red back in the sky. And we could do that by using split toning. So since it's automatically selected on red, which you can see over here, what we have to do is just change the saturation tool. So if I were to increase it all the way up to 100, you can see that sky becomes pink. So we just have to drag it to the point where we get like a nice color for the sky. So something like 10-ish, something like 10, yeah, that works. Now shadows, I won't really be messing with it because it just changes the grass, which I don't really want in this case, so yeah. Alright, so for the next portion of the tutorial, we'll be using the graduated filter, which we just have to come up here to this toolbar and just select it. So what this will do is actually affect the portion of the image depending on where you select it. So we want to change the sky, so what we have to do is just drag this down over here. So if we were to come down to like show selected or mask overlay, which I already have selected, you can already see the part of the image that's already affected, right? So you can see that the sky is definitely affected, while once you get to the grass area, it slowly fades out, right? So we don't want that, we just want the sky. So we just have something like this, and you just want to get this back in position, right? If I were to like drag this up, you can see that there's like this instant cutoff, which we don't want, right? Because here, I'll actually show you right here. So we don't want that, we want the slow fade, like something like that, okay? Alright, so since I want to add some more details back in the clouds, we can actually do this with the graduated filter. So what we have to do is actually bring the exposure a bit down so we get some more details in the clouds. So something about like 0.7 would work. And if we want to add a bit more detail, just a bit, we can actually increase the contrast. So you can see how the skies just becomes, it looks much more meaner and like darker, right? So we don't want that because that looks too unrealistic. So we just have to drag it down to about, I would say something like 20-ish. So for the next four tools over here, highlights, shadows, clarity, and saturation, usually I would just play around with it and just like see where it best fits, right? So like I said earlier, highlights affects the details and the brightness, right? So if we drag it all the way up, it becomes too bright. So we could just see where it best fits. So something like -10 would be good, right? or -9 in my case, we can see the same with shadows, right? So you can see not only, you see in this case, since the graduate filter is actually affecting like this part, you can see how the grass portion of the image isn't like being affected, right? It's only the sky. So in this case, something like, I would say maybe like -40-ish would work. And same thing with clarity. If we want to put some more details back, we just increase it a bit, right? So you can see the change already. So something about like 10 would work. So like I said earlier, saturation actually changes the intensity of the color in the sky. So it's like something like this is really unrealistic. So just have to drag it a bit down to something like 20 would work, right? And if you really want to change the color in your sky, you can actually just come down here to this color button and just select any point over here. So if I want like a really red like sky, which will change it to pink, or like if I want to keep it blue, or change it to yellow, which you will get like this teal and orange color, right? So in this case, I kind of want to keep it like blue up here and like red and orange down here. So we just have to come down to like over here and get this nice color, something about right here, something like that. All right, so for the next part, what we can actually do is scroll all the way down to camera calibration. Now, if I want to change the red in the sky, what I can do is actually come down to red primary and just use the tool. So if I were to drag all the way down, you get this like nice kind of cotton candy lookish color over here. Now I don't want that, so you could actually just play around like that. You can see if I were to increase it, the red becomes yellow over here and the sky just becomes way too blue. So if I were to change it, I would probably change it to something about like that. Now you can also do the same with the blue primary. However, if I were to increase it, you get this purple color, and if I were to decrease it, you get this really unrealistic pinkish and teal color in the sky, which is never gonna happen in real life. So you can actually just play around with it and see where it best fits. So something like -10 would work, right? So if I want to see the difference, I can just come over here and just like select this, right? So you can instantly see the difference over here. All right, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial. And before I let you go, I actually want to show you the before and after of this image. So you just have to come down here and you see this little arrow, just select before, after, top, and bottom. So you can instantly see the change that I put in this image. You can see how I changed the dullness of the grass in the sky, and I actually increased the green in the grass, and I just changed the sky from like this dull, light bluish, faded red color into this intense red and this really nice blue color over here. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial, and before I end this off, I just want to say thanks to Christoph, who's Director of Operations for the Laurier Photography Club, for actually giving me this image so that I can use in this tutorial. Shout out to him. I'll leave his Instagram link in the description. I'll also leave mine if you want to check out my photos. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like or comment down below on what tutorial you want me to work on next. That's pretty much it, and I guess I'll see you guys next time.